Young and the Restless spoilers Wednesday, June 3 to 0 to 6. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today is a beautiful, sunny day, but we are about to dive right back into the absolute darkness and madness of Genoa City. We have so much to unpack for the week of June 1st, 2026, and honestly, things are getting wild. Grab a coffee, get comfortable, and let's just get straight into the drama because there is a massive amount of ground to cover today. So let's just start with Matt Clark because I'm honestly so exhausted by this guy, but I also can't look away. You guys know the drill by now. Matt has been playing this whole amnesia card for what feels like forever. A few episodes ago, we saw him totally faking it when Noah confronted him. But then after all the chaos, the crash, and the drugs, it actually started looking like he might have genuinely lost his memories. I mean, Phyllis literally had him chained up in a dark basement screaming his crimes at him, and he was acting like he was ready to accept a deadly fate for things he couldn't even remember doing. But no, of course not. Because now, Sienna Bacall's face is the thing that is finally triggering his memories. Yes, Sienna. The same fiercely loyal, completely unhinged Sienna who stalked Phyllis, knocked her out cold, and untied Matt. Now that Matt is looking at her, the gears are turning in his head. The memories are flooding back, and guess what? He's completely changing his mind about accepting any kind of punishment. He is getting his villain groove back, and I am just sitting here wondering who actually believes this is going to end well. No one, literally no one. And that brings us right to Nick and Victor, who are currently at each other's throats over what to do with Matt. Nick is a total psychological mess right now. Let's be real. The guy just survived a horrific fentanyl-laced car crash because Matt poisoned his drug supply. And what was Nick doing before Matt's memories started coming back? He was actively trying to help Matt remember his crimes just so he could punch him in the face without feeling guilty. I mean, what kind of twisted logic is that? Nick's brain is so scrambled from the drugs and the trauma that he needs his abuser to remember being an abuser just so he can have closure. But Victor doesn't care about closure. Victor just cares about winning. Victor is currently taking this massive, arrogant victory lap around Genoa City because he feels totally vindicated. He refused to trade his precious company to Phyllis to save Nick. And in Victor's mind, it all worked out perfectly. Nick is alive, Matt is in custody, and Victor gets to keep his empire. So Victor and Nick are clashing hard because Victor just wants to dispose of Matt his way, while Nick is still emotionally tied to this weird revenge fantasy. But speaking of Victor, we really need to talk about Nikki and how her health is just completely deteriorating right now. Nikki is suffering from these intense, blinding migraines, and she is just not taking care of herself. And why? Because she doesn't have Victor by her side. But let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger pattern here. Victor has been aggressively gaslighting Nikki for weeks. He has been manipulating her, demanding that she praise him for his ruthless business choices, completely ignoring the fact that she was traumatized watching her son almost die. He wants her to just forget all the horrible things that happened and worship him for saving the company. And now Nikki is physically paying the price. Her body is just breaking down under the stress. Victoria is absolutely panicking. She sees her mother fading and she is terrified. So Victoria ends up going to Nate Hastings to discuss Nikki's failing health. And you just know the writers are going to use this medical crisis to push Victor and Nikki back together. A relapse or a severe health scare is the classic soap trope to force a reconciliation. Maybe I'm being too harsh, okay? That sounded dramatic, but you get what I mean. It just feels so predictable. And then we have Phyllis Summers. Oh, Phyllis. She is in so much trouble, and she is running right back to Michael Baldwin for legal help again after everything. Remember last week or a few episodes ago when Michael literally stormed into the courtroom with that top secret file to prove the Newman emails were AI generated, which led to Christine getting arrested. Well, Phyllis is still drowning in a criminal mess because of Victor's fabricated schemes. Victor set her up, and now Phyllis is begging Michael to clear her name, but Michael is so exhausted. He has been telling her for weeks that she is her own worst enemy, that her emotional outbursts are going to destroy her. I really wonder how Michael is going to handle this. Is he going to risk his own sanity to save her again? Probably. But the craziest part of this whole week is that Sharon Newman, yes, Sharon decides to give Phyllis a second chance. What were they thinking? Why on earth would Sharon, who is dealing with her own massive trauma and trying to save Nick and Mariah, suddenly extend an olive branch to Phyllis? Maybe Sharon just realizes that life is too short after watching Nick almost die in that crash. Or maybe she just pities Phyllis at this point because Phyllis has literally isolated everyone else in her life. It is just so bizarre to see Sharon playing nice when she has every reason not to. Let's shift gears to the Winters family because the tension there is just off the charts. Devin is acting like a complete jerk to Lily, and Lily finally snaps and puts him in his place. Devin has been relentlessly criticizing Lily's feelings for Kane Ashby, and look, I get it, Kane is awful. Kane is currently blackmailing the family, demanding control of Chancellor Winters in exchange for donating his bone marrow to save Malcolm's life. It is a disgusting, ruthless move. But Devin is just sitting there judging Lily, acting like she has a choice. Lily is completely helpless here. She just found out that her twins aren't a match for Malcolm. Kane is the only match. Lily is staring down the barrel of losing her uncle who is basically her father, and Devin is just giving her grief about Kane. So Lily finally claps back at Devin and tells him to back off. And honestly, good for her. Devin needs to focus on his own messy life and his whole situation with Mariah and Abby instead of policing how Lily handles a literal life-or-death crisis. Plus, the spoilers say Victor is going to keep his promise to Lily. What promise? Did Victor promise to help her crush Kane once Malcolm gets the transplant? If Victor steps in to save Chancellor Winters from Kane's blackmail, that would be a massive game changer. And we can't ignore what the younger generation is up to. Noah Newman is apparently recreating something called the Dark Room. Now, this is super intriguing. Sienna is absolutely terrified about this. She is incredibly worried that if Noah recreates this dark room, it is going to be Matt Clark's ultimate weakness. Now that Matt's memories are returning, he is vulnerable to psychological triggers from his past. Is the dark room something from Matt's history? Is Noah using his art or his connections to build a psychological trap for the guy who tortured him and his family? Noah has been so angry, so traumatized. We saw him literally physically fight Matt and get punched in the face just to keep him distracted for the cops. Noah is not backing down. And Sienna knows that Noah's plan could completely break Matt's fragile mind. So moving on to Holden Novak, Holden has been leaning so heavily on Claire Grace Newman lately. Claire has been so sweet, giving him advice about his messy new legacy family ties to the Winters clan. But of course, because this is Genoa City, Holden can't just have a nice, normal romance. It turns out he has a past with Audra Charles, because of course he does. Audra has literally been everywhere and with everyone. She is currently holding Sally Spectre together after Sally's tragic miscarriage, but now Audra's past with Holden is bubbling up to the surface. What does this mean for Holden and Claire? Claire is so fragile and is just finding her footing, and Audra is this absolute shark. And finally, we have Stephanie Simmons, who is facing a massive, difficult decision this week. She is leaning on Nate Hastings to help her figure it out. Stephanie was the one who accidentally gave Kane the medical info about Malcolm in the first place, so maybe her decision is tied to that guilt. Or maybe she has to decide whether to stay in Genoa City permanently. Nate has been so stubborn lately, but maybe helping Stephanie will soften him up a bit. Honestly, guys, this week is just packed with so much emotional baggage. From Matt getting his memories back and Victor taking his obnoxious victory laps, to Lily fighting for Malcolm's life. It is messy, it is chaotic, and it is exactly why we can't stop watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.